Rica, the first printing press was established in 1890. I mean, it was just past century. But for us, we had the iPad 4 days after the release. So it's interesting. We had the opportunity in TOC in New York to hear very interesting things. And one of the things that really impressed me was this lady. This lady was in the door of all the conferences, and she was taking notes. And I don't know how many of you from O'Reilly knew, but she was sharing all the things that she heard with her community back in Harlem or in the Bronx where she was living. And I was doing the same. I think we all, when we fly to things like this, we share ideas, and it's not to be like this guy that was in a cartoon book in my hotel. I don't think that if you live in the right place, in the right moment with all the gadgets, you're going to be excited, because as this guy proves, it's not a question of geography. The mayor of Bogota got the first page of the newspaper when he got the iPad. And there he is playing with his iPad because it was very fancy. But the good news for all people in my country, at least, is that the $500 that we had to use to buy an iPad in the US is the same amount of money we have to use in Colombia. There's no price difference. For the first time in history, we have in Latin America a machine that doesn't require to pay a ticket to go to New York, get it, and make numbers in the US instead of making the number as a unit sold in Latin America. And I think this is something to be heard, because it happens also with books. So obviously now we have enhanced newspapers. And there was one guy that when he saw cinema, he said, well, now I think my novels could be shorter, and I'm not going to waste my time writing as much as I do now. And it was Leo Tolstoy. And he hadn't seen anything. So obviously, there was a very good speaker in Bogota, and he said, because it was William Gibson's quote, the future is here, it's not evenly distributed yet. And I think that's really what is happening, because this is in FIT, in the Museum of Fashion, New York. They haven't get the news yet. It says, sketching in pencil only. I was taken outside and my iPad was confiscated because I draw. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything, I'm drawing. Oh, you can't do, it's only pencil sketching. That's a little too far, because we can do that. Maybe that's the reason this guy in Peru is wisely calling his bookstore of books. He's not selling any e-books, it seems, but I don't know if it was coincidence, because in Mainz they have this e-Gutenberg shop. Maybe they are preparing the future. But this is Colombia, this is just a plane, and we see people reading. I want you to look at the way people get the books in an airport in Colombia. For me, it's like being in a condom. These books are wrapped in paper. And in our countries, sometimes, when people open the package, they have to pay for whatever is inside. And you're like, well, but I can understand that with a record, sometimes. But with a book, you have to check something. And then you're giving them, in these reading devices, the option to download first chapter, at least. So things that used to be cartoons in the 1950s and impossible ideas are now regular things. Nobody thought that doing exercise, you were going to do something else. Well, go to a gym anywhere in the world right now, and you're going to see people doing stock exchange things in the gym. So this is a father in Bogota, just before I came here, and he's having his kid entertained with a movie. But if you notice, the kid is not as entertained as the father. And that's the thing with this technology. This is at night, in a plane reading, and this is just a book. And it's very good to see the comparison. And this is just an iPod Touch. It's the same size as the screen that I had in front. And these are some girls in the book fair in Bogota. And they are playing a video game, which is a cookie. I mean, it's a game to learn how to cook. So these girls were playing something constructive. and it was very good. But inside the book, inside the thing that we had for these book publishers in Colombia, there was this guy playing a very strange game, an immersive game, because he's a pilot and he's a publisher. And he was telling me that this game takes the same time flying as the plane is flying. So it is very dangerous to fly with this guy, because imagine some people look at him and, what are you doing? And he says, normally, like a joke, I'm flying the plane. Well, that could be really scary. So I'm going to put the sound, sorry, because we need to hear the next, it's a testimony.
So we have this problem.
He's not young. So these video games happen to attract very old gamers as well. This is Bob Stein in Bogota, and something happened to Bob, and this is what happened to him. Light. And what happened with you? I'm going to go back. Okay, here we are with Bob Stein, who just became very light. And what happened with you?
I lost my computer bag that had my computer, my iPad, and my backup drive. Whoops.
And what happened with the books?
Well, I was thinking I'm on the plane tomorrow, and I was thinking I'm missing the book I had on my iPad that I was reading, and suddenly I realized that it's on my phone too.
So that's the ecosystem that we Latins love. We have the same book in the phone, we have the same book in the reading device, we have the same book, and pages update, and obviously we have some risks that in some other countries don't happen, like Bob's bag was taken while we were having very good Colombian coffee, and that was very sad, but it happens. And he said, well, it could happen in Manhattan as well. Sadly, it didn't happen in Manhattan, it happened there. But he was always smiling, which is cool because he had his book safe. These are my book collection, part of my book collection in Colombia. And there's a very interesting book for me, Piracy by Adrian Jones. And this is the way I take notes. In the back of a book, if I want to share something with you, it's impossible for me to share, obviously. But now, thanks to Piracy, the digital one, I can do it. It's in my iPad. The original one costed $20. This one cost $20.48. So yeah, we pay for content, and it's really interesting. Even if it's that expensive. I have 60 books in my iPad so far, and the collection keeps growing. I show you my Kindle because my iBooks is impossible. We don't have iBook store in Latin America, if you know. I don't know why, but... Well, there are some books that are very interesting and they are only $2. I'm not thinking, I'm buying. And suddenly you don't even consider what you're doing, and you're getting very good things at a very low price in very large quantities, because you start telling your friends, hey, get this. And this is it's not very nice, but I have to show it because sometimes in Latin America we get this bump, which is this very interesting title. Maybe you can see, I'm going to grow it a little bigger. This title is not available for customers in your location, Latin America and the Caribbean. That is thinking about borders, and we're trying to read without borders because this is complicated. This book has not been published in Spanish, and I think never will. And I think the only guy in Colombia that wants this book is my business partner. What are we going to do? And they are losing customers because there could be all over Latin America. Like in this case, I was reading this book, the Blackberry, and I recommended that one to the director of the Cámara del Libro in Bolivia, and he read the book, and he recommended it in his Facebook account, and one guy in Venezuela was reading it as well. And it was just because I was in Peru, and I downloaded the book just to test, sample pages, and then I thought it was great. Obviously, when you get this message, it's amazing. You pay for something, and you're going to get an upgrade. They are going to take care of you. That's something very good for us. Not the thing that happens to my friend. He is like Martin Gore in